Amid the chaos of war-torn skies over China in 1938, Tetsuzō Iwamoto found himself locked in a lethal struggle. The sun blazed down on a frantic aerial battle as Iwamoto's squadron encountered a swarm of 16 Chinese fighters, their engines screaming as they hurtled into the fray of his first combat mission. With his heart pounding, Iwamoto locked eyes on a glinting silver I-15 biplane. At a mere 50 meters, he squeezed the trigger, feeling the roar of his 20mm guns vibrate through his bones as the enemy aircraft disintegrated in a fiery explosion. But the battle was just beginning. An I-16 swooped in from above, guns blazing, tracers streaking past Iwamoto's canopy. He was faster. His split S maneuver was executed with the precision of a seasoned ace. The hunter became the hunted as Iwamoto lined up his sights, sending the enemy spiraling to the earth below in a trail of black smoke. In the span of minutes, Iwamoto claimed 4 victories. His instinct sharp, his hands steady on the stick, and his resolve unbreakable. As he scanned the chaos around him, adrenaline coursed through his veins. The skies were filled with more enemies, more challenges, and more opportunities for this rising ace to prove his mettle. The battle raged on, and Tetsuzō Iwamoto's journey to becoming Japan's greatest ace had only just begun. Tetsuzō Iwamoto was not born to follow the rules. He was born to break them. From a young age, his rebellious streak was evident. Growing up in the remote town of Matsuda after a childhood spent in Hokkaido, he was a sharp student with a particular knack for mathematics and geometry, subjects where precision and quick thinking were paramount. But it wasn't just his academic prowess that set him apart. It was his defiance. Teachers saw him as insubordinate, a boy who questioned authority and wasn't afraid to challenge the status quo. This fierce independence would later define him as a pilot and a warrior. At 18, against his parents' wishes and tradition, Iwamoto turned his back on a secure future in academia. Instead, he secretly enrolled in the Imperial Japanese Navy, driven by an insatiable need to forge his own path. His training was rigorous, but he thrived on it, pushing himself to the limit. He quickly distinguished himself, not just with his flying skills, but with an audacity that would become his trademark in the skies. The naval brass band, where he once played trumpet, was a far cry from the roaring engines of the fighter planes he would come to master. Yet, the same focus and rhythm he applied to music now drove him in aerial combat training. His instructors, though initially skeptical of his unorthodox methods, couldn't deny his natural talent. Iwamoto's insubordination morphed into tactical genius, and his early disregard for tradition became an asset, allowing him to think outside the rigid doctrines that bound others. By the time he graduated from the 34th Shoju Rinshusei flight trainee program in December 1936, Tetsuzō Iwamoto was more than ready for war. He was eager for it. Tetsuzō Iwamoto's journey to becoming one of Japan's most feared aces began with his deployment to China in early 1938. As part of the 13th Flying Group, he was sent to the front lines in the escalating Second Sino-Japanese War. The Chinese skies were a crucible for the young aviator, a place where only the most skilled and daring would survive. Iwamoto's first combat mission over Nanchang on February 25, 1938, marked the beginning of his legendary career. On that fateful day, Iwamoto's squadron was tasked with escorting bombers as they pounded enemy positions. The air was thick with tension as the Japanese formation encountered a swarm of Chinese fighters, 16 nimble I-15s and I-16s, their engines roaring as they dove into the fray. It was here, amidst the chaos, that Iwamoto proved his mettle. His first target was an I-15 biplane, its silver wings shimmering in the sunlight. Iwamoto closed in with surgical precision, his hands steady on the controls. At a mere 50 meters, he squeezed the trigger, his machine guns erupting with lethal fire. The rounds shredded the I-15's fuselage, and within moments, the enemy aircraft was engulfed in flames, spiraling down to meet the earth in a fiery explosion. But the battle was far from over. An I-16 fighter swooped down on him, guns blazing. Iwamoto reacted with lightning speed, pulling into a sharp split S maneuver, evading the incoming fire and flipping the tables on his adversary. Now the hunter, Iwamoto lined up the I-16 in his sights and unleashed a burst of gunfire. The enemy plane's engine erupted in smoke and fire, sending it into a fatal spiral. Iwamoto's instincts in the cockpit were sharp and lethal. As another I-15 came into view, he wasted no time diving on it from above. His rounds tore through the biplane, sending it tumbling out of control. Even as he pulled away, he caught sight of an I-16 attempting to climb. Iwamoto was on it in seconds, his gun spitting fire, until the plane nosed over and plummeted to the ground. His final victory of the day was an I-15 trying to escape at a low altitude. Iwamoto pursued it relentlessly, firing in controlled bursts until the enemy aircraft crashed near an airfield. By the end of the mission, Iwamoto had claimed 4 victories, a staggering achievement for any pilot, let alone one on his first combat mission. Word of Iwamoto's exploits spread quickly through the ranks. His aggressive style, combined with his uncanny skill in the cockpit, earned him a reputation as a prodigious pilot. Over the following months, he continued to rack up victories, becoming one of the top aces in the Imperial Japanese Navy. His growing tally and unyielding spirit earned him the respect of his peers and recognition from higher command. By September 1938, Iwamoto had completed 82 missions and achieved 14 confirmed victories, cementing his status as Japan's leading ace in China. His exceptional bravery and combat prowess did not go unnoticed. In 1940, he was awarded the prestigious Order of the Golden Kite, 5th class, a rare honor bestowed on only the most distinguished pilots. This award solidified Iwamoto's place as a national hero, a symbol of Japan's aerial might. Iwamoto's success in China was just the beginning. His exploits over Nanchang set the stage for his rise as one of the greatest fighter pilots of the Pacific War, and his legend was only beginning to take flight. The Pacific War catapulted Tetsuzō Iwamoto from a rising ace to a living legend, his name whispered with awe and respect among both his comrades and his enemies. When the first bombs fell on Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, Iwamoto was already airborne, not over Hawaii, but providing air cover for the carrier group that launched the infamous attack. As the Japanese fleet carved a path of destruction through the Pacific, Iwamoto's skills were about to be tested in some of the most brutal air battles of the war. By May 1942, Iwamoto was flying the legendary Mitsubishi A6M0 from the deck of the carrier Zuikaku, a symbol of Japanese air superiority. The Battle of the Coral Sea was his first significant engagement in the Pacific theater. The skies over the Coral Sea were a chaotic scene, with aircraft from both sides twisting and turning in desperate dogfights. Iwamoto, leading his Chitai, dove headlong into the fray. The Zero boasted superior maneuverability and range compared to its American counterparts. Iwamoto knew how to exploit these advantages to devastating effect. He would climb high above the battle, positioning his squadron for a diving attack. His preferred tactic was to use the sun to blind his enemies, swooping down unseen until it was too late. With precision and ruthless efficiency, Iwamoto would unleash his guns, tearing through enemy aircraft, before pulling up and climbing again, ready to strike at another unsuspecting foe. During the Battle of the Coral Sea, Iwamoto claimed multiple victories, including several Grumman F-4F Wildcats and Douglas SBD Dauntless dive bombers. The air was thick with the acrid smell of burning fuel and the deafening roar of engines as planes exploded in midair or plummeted into the ocean. Amidst this chaos, Iwamoto's calm demeanor and razor-sharp instincts stood out. His ability to remain composed under fire and his precise execution of combat maneuvers made him a feared adversary. Zuikaku's air group suffered significant losses during the battle, forcing the carrier to return to Japan for resupply and to train replacement aircrew. This temporary setback meant that Iwamoto and his comrades missed the pivotal Battle of Midway, where Japan's fortunes would take a dramatic turn. But for Iwamoto, the war was far from over. After a brief period of instructional duties back in Japan, Iwamoto was once again thrust into the heat of battle, this time in the skies over Rabaul, New Britain. It was late 1943, and the Allies were intensifying their offensive. Rabaul, a critical Japanese stronghold, became the site of relentless air combat. Iwamoto, now a chief petty officer, led his increasingly junior and less experienced pilots against the overwhelming might of the U.S. Navy and the USAAF. In Rabaul, Iwamoto honed his leadership skills, training young pilots in the art of air combat. His tactics became more refined, blending aggression with cunning. He often employed the hit-and-run tactic, using the Zero's superior speed and climb rate to strike quickly and then disengage before the enemy could react. This tactic proved highly effective against the more heavily armored but less maneuverable American fighters. Iwamoto's time at Rabaul was marked by an astonishing tally of victories. He claimed to have shot down over 142 enemy aircraft, a figure that, while debated, underscores his dominance in the skies. The relentless air battles, day after day, forged Iwamoto into a legendary figure. His aircraft, often streaked with victory markings, became a symbol of fear among Allied pilots. As the war dragged on, Iwamoto's combat role extended to other critical locations, including Formosa in the Philippines. Despite the increasing odds, he continued to lead his men with unwavering determination. His reputation as a Chutai leader grew, not just for his skill in combat, but for his ability to inspire and train the next generation of pilots. In the twilight of the war, Iwamoto found himself back in Japan, facing the grim task of training kamikaze pilots as the Empire's defense crumbled. Tetsuzō Iwamoto's success in the skies was no coincidence. It resulted from exceptional flying tactics and an innate understanding of aerial combat. He was a master of the skies, known for his ability to outmaneuver and outthink his opponents. Among his favorite tactics was the corkscrew loop, or hineri komi-senpo. This twisting loop allowed him to quickly change direction and position himself behind an enemy aircraft. This maneuver and his mastery of the high and low yo-yo tactics made him a fearsome opponent in any dogfight. Iwamoto's skill extended beyond traditional dogfighting. He was also adept at bombing tactics, particularly with the challenging 30-kilogram No. 3 aerial bomb. One of his signature moves was the vertical dive attack, often initiated from a steep 60-degree angle in inverted flight. This approach, while risky, allowed Iwamoto to achieve the necessary speed to deploy the bomb accurately, wreaking havoc on enemy formations and ground targets alike. Despite his undeniable skill, Iwamoto's victory claims have been the subject of much debate. His diary lists 202 aerial victories, including 26 shared downings and 22 unconfirmed. However, discrepancies in the Japanese scoring system, which often credited victories to a squadron rather than an individual pilot, have cast doubt on the accuracy of these numbers. Some historians, like Izawa and Hata, have estimated his accuracy count to be closer to 87, still a remarkable achievement, but far from the legend his diary suggests. Among the aircraft Iwamoto claimed to have shot down were the Grumman F-4F Wildcat, Vought F-4U Corsair, and the formidable F-6F Hellcat, some of the most iconic American fighters of the war. His reported successes against these planes, particularly the Hellcat, underscore his tactical brilliance. After the war, Tetsuzō Iwamoto returned to a Japan vastly different from the one he had fiercely defended. The once revered ace, who had soared above the Pacific with unmatched skill, now found himself grounded by the harsh realities of a defeated nation. Like many veterans, Iwamoto struggled to adjust to civilian life. The end of the war brought not peace, but a deep and abiding depression. The weight of the loss, the destruction, and the disillusionment with the ideals he once fought for bore heavily on him. On May 20th, 1955, he was found in his home in Kanazawa, Ishikawa Prefecture, having taken his own life. The exact reasons for his decision remain a subject of speculation, but it is generally believed that the combination of his war experiences, the burden of his country's defeat, and the difficulties he faced in post-war life contributed to his tragic end. Despite his personal struggles, Iwamoto's legacy as Japan's top ace remains uncontested. He is remembered not only for his impressive combat record, but also for his tactical innovations and the fear he inspired in his adversaries. His contributions to the Imperial Japanese Navy Air Service, particularly in training younger pilots and developing combat techniques, have left a lasting impact.